Hey friends, it's Aki here. Hope you're doing well. It's been 6 months since I first got my hands on this Bambu Lab P1S, and I think it's time for an update. This isn't going to be your typical review where I just throw the specs at you. I want to take a different approach. I want to give you the true, honest 6 months later rundown of my experience with this 3D printer. So if you've been considering getting into 3D printing, or if you're just curious about the Bambu Lab in general, definitely stick around because you might find something helpful. Let me share with you why I decided to get into 3D printing in the first place. A lot of you know that I'm all about tech, gadgets, tools, anything that makes life more fun or functional. I've had my hands in a lots of tech over the years, from cameras to gaming setups. But 3D printing was a whole new world for me. And I'll be honest, I had zero experience when I get the Bambu Lab P1S. I wasn't looking for something pro level. I wasn't trying to make any big, complicated designs right off the bat, such as like the Iron Man or Spider-Man mask. No, I just wanted a 3D printer for fun. Print some cool stuff around the apartment, maybe a few random gadgets here and there, and really just get the hang of it. I've always been a fan of DIY projects and the idea of creating something from scratch, digitally designing it, and then seeing it come to life physically. That was something that really intrigued me. So when I saw Bambu Lab P1S, and I was like, this looks like a solid entry level machine with some good reviews, reasonable pricing, and great community supports behind it. It checked all the boxes for me, and 6 months later, I can confidently say it was a great choice. Now let's break this down into what I like to call my 3 phases of 3D printing. I think it's important to understand that you are not just going to jump into this and become a 3D printing expert overnight. There are stages to it, and trust me, I went through them all. Some phases were frustrating, others were surprisingly rewarding. But each phase taught me something new. Phase 1, the exploration phase. Getting the hang of things. Alright, let's go back to the beginning when I first got the printer. I was a total newbie. I had no experience with the 3D printing software. I didn't know about slicers, support, infills, or print orientations. I was just looking for an adventure. Honestly, I printed a bunch of random stuff, mostly junk. I'm talking about like the One Piece devil fruits, a ton of fidget toys, some random stuff for my house, you name it. But nothing original and nothing special. Just cool things I found online. I just hit the print button and waited to see what came out of it like 2 hours later. And honestly, it was kind of satisfying. Like, I was amazed that I could take a file and make something physical. But of course, I quickly ran into some issues. One of my first prints was a complete disaster. The print tipped over at about 90% of its way done and turned into a tangled mess of, the spaghetti failure, the very classic one. And the lesson here, right, is to clean the print bed after each print, because if you don't do that, things will not stick and you're going to run into issues. Another lesson I learned is that if you're printing something with a small base with a wide overhang, you should probably use support. If not, the movements from the printer, as well as the exhaust fan that's constantly blowing air, can tip it over, and combining the fact that your bed adhesive is not great. So I learned my lesson. Even though it wasn't perfect, the results I got was surprisingly good for a first timer. The print quality, especially how easy the Bambu Lab P1S was to use, was honestly way beyond what I expected. I remember back in school when we first did 3D printing for projects. The prints were terrible. The resolutions was awful, there was so much stringing, and the layer lines were so thick and visible from across the room. But with the P1S, the resolution was crazy good. We are getting some sharp edges, the curved edges, nice details, and I was hooked. Phase 2, the technical phase, getting into the technical stuff. After a couple months, I started to get more technical with the printer. I was printing more regularly, and it was time for me to move beyond just pressing the print and walking away. This phase is where I really started diving into the Bambu Studio, the slicer software. At first, I didn't even know how to change the print speed or what setting affect the print quality. I just hit the print and hope for the best. But after a while, I started learning about the scaling of the models, the orientation properly, and adjusting the supports. This phase is all about experimentation. I was trying out different infill patterns, figuring out how many wall loops I needed for strength, and adjusting the layer heights for smooth finishes. I also started experimenting with the speed settings to find the balance between time and quality, and let me tell you, the lunatic speed just doesn't work for me. Like, the print always failed because it was going so fast. It was at this point that I got a little more creative, or should I say, a bit more technical. I still wasn't designing or anything from scratch, but I was starting to adjust prints in a way that made difference. I got comfortable with things like adding and removing supports in Bambu Studio, and I learned how to tweak the settings for a smoother finish. Phase 3, the creative phase, bring my own designs to life. I'm at what I'm calling the creative phase. This is when things started to get exciting. I've gone from just printing other people's design to printing my own design. One of most fun projects I've done recently is my desktop mini wind tunnel. I call it the Aeroflow. This project took me about 2 months to complete, and let me tell you, it was massive learning experience. The wind tunnel is essentially a small chamber where you place a scale model car and you turn on the fan and see how the wind interacts with the car's shape. You can visually see how the car's aerodynamics affect the airflow, and that's super cool to me. What makes this project interesting is that it's not just 3D printing. I had to integrate electronic parts like the fans, the lights, the ultrasonic mist maker to visualize the airflow. It took a ton of prototyping, a lot of trial and error, and more than 24 hours of printing per piece. It really sucks after a 16 hours print and you realize something is not done correctly, so you have to go back and fix it in SketchUp. I've used SketchUp for design because that's what I'm comfortable with, and I used it in school. But the most interesting parts of the project wasn't just making something to look cool. It was learning how to make it functional. I had to learn about the electronical components and how to combine those with my 3D prints to make the wind tunnel work as intended. It wasn't easy, but it was rewarding. And you know what? I sold a couple of these wind tunnel already, so yeah, it's actually covering part of the cost of my hobby. Not bad, right? Check it out for yourself if you're interested, or even just see what's about. I will put a link down below. Buyer's remorse and worth it moments. There were definitely times, though, when I wondered if I made the right decision. There were days when I looked at the printer and thought, what did I get myself into? I mean, this thing is massive. It's taking up a huge chunk of my space in my apartments. And sometimes, when a print fails or a project takes way longer than expected, I did get the feeling of buyer's remorse. I felt like I bought it on an impulse. But then I remember, this isn't just about random piece of tech sitting in my apartment. It's a cool tool that has unlocked a whole new level of creative world for me. I'm making things I couldn't before, and I'm learning along the way. And that's when I realized this was worth it. Conclusion, the Bambu Lab P1S. Final thoughts. After 6 months with the Bambu Lab P1S, I can say that I'm still in love with it. I've grown, learned a lot, and made some pretty cool things along the way. Sure, there are still things I need to improve, and I'm far from being an expert. But this machine has been such a fun tool to have in my arsenal, and I definitely don't regret the investment. If you're considering getting into 3D printing, the P1S is a solid choice. It's very user friendly, the quality is high, and it's been super reliable for me. And for someone like myself, who's more of a tech enthusiast than a pro, it's been a perfect entry level printer, to be honest. And if you're on the fence, give it a shot. I think it's going to be worth it. Hey, I hope you find my journey with the Bambu Lab P1S helpful. If you enjoy hearing about my experience, make sure to drop a like down below. It really helps me out. And I've noticed a lot of you watching aren't subscribed to the channel yet. So if you could hit that subscribe button, it will mean a lot to me. I'm working hard to grow this channel and I'm hoping to take it full time so I can spend more time creating content and with my family. So yeah, I really appreciate the support and I'm grateful for everyone who's tuning in. Take care and I will see you in the next one.